Hello, my name is Amanda Lynn, and I'm based out of San Francisco, California. I got my start painting murals on the East Coast in Delaware. I did my first mural about 20 years ago, and I moved to California, to San Francisco shortly after, about a year and a half, with the dream of becoming a muralist, a California muralist. I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to do that, but it was something that I was passionate about, and upon moving here I started seeing all the murals all over the Mission and knew it was the place that I was meant to be. And I met an amazing group of talented graffiti writers who sort of showed me the way and showed me that you could just paint on walls for fun, and it didn't have to be anything serious, and it was a concept that I hadn't even thought of with my whole interest in mural art. I thought it had to be a job and this sort of thing, and so when I discovered the idea of you just go out and paint because you want to, it sounded like the best idea in the world to me. I painted these little brush characters next to all these people spray painting, and it was really fun.
Hi, my name is Missy M. of Missy M. Toys. I started painting about 3 years ago, and I met this amazing artist when I was in Hong Kong 3 years ago, artist Finn DAC from the UK. I assisted him in a project, and that's how I became a muralist.
I've been painting since I was a little girl. I had an early obsession and passion for performance art and was always drawing and painting on the side. It was always something that I did in auxiliary to the rest of my work. And I went to college and started to feel really uncomfortable on stage, and within about 3 months of my undergraduate degree I switched my major to fine art with a painting emphasis.
I actually started quite small because normally I was sort of a little afterthought to a graffiti piece, so it was like a little character sort of posed on a letter or something. The biggest I would go would be like the size of a doorway. A lot of my paintings were very small. I went to college for illustration, so I started small. It actually was not until I met the woman I painted the mural with over there, her name's Lady Mags, was the first time that I ever worked with a graffiti writer who asked me to go big and asked me if I would do my character the same size as her piece, and that I shouldn't be an afterthought. I should be just as, important on the wall. So that's how I got my start, going big.
This is all very new to me. I've been doing it for 3 years, and I've never painted before. I can't even really draw, but I'm really good at stick figures. And I've never painted canvases. I've actually only done one canvas for one business. Other than that, I've always painted in large scales, and I also did my legal street art stuff.
I started working within the realm of public art because I felt that it was really important to have an aspect of my practice that was accessible to everyone. The gallery world felt to me a little bit exclusive, and even museums felt like they were geared towards a certain demographic, and if you didn't have the right upbringing, the right economic status, socioeconomic background, the work wouldn't necessarily be available to you. And so with public art, I noticed that you walk down the streets of Chicago or New York and anyone on the street can engage with the work when it's on the side of a building. So I applied for my first mural commission, I believe in 2010, and in the city of Chicago, and that was my first large-scale public work.
What I'm worried about in San Francisco is someone stealing your paint or knocking your ladder. Or San Francisco is, if anyone's ever traveled here, can be an interesting place to work on the street. Other than that, just weather. Most people are usually pretty friendly about things, and now moving on to bigger walls and more serious jobs, it's more just equipment and lifts and making sure things are working.
It's very internally fulfilling as a muralist, I think, especially when you're painting such large, massive scales, from beginning to finish, it's so rewarding at the end. And I would say that the hardest thing in the end is also to walk away from what you just did, that you worked so hard on, day and night.
I'll say that even a few years ago, there were more constraints on female muralists, and with some of the things happening politically today, I think that people, cities, institutions, even art communities are handling promoting and being welcoming and accepting and excited about female work. But in a few instances in my past, I felt that I'd enter a city or I'd enter a scene, a muralist scene, a street art scene, and it was very much a boys' club. And so the stories that I wanted to tell from a female perspective or about being a woman in this world weren't quite as welcome as some of the more classic motifs and tropes of street work. Additionally, I have felt occasionally unheard or brushed off by people in the business when I was trying to introduce myself. I'm Leah Tamarin, I'm a female muralist. Yeah, okay.
Feeling intimidation with artists and anything like that? No, actually. Honestly, I find all the other artists very inspiring to me. You know, such as a new artist, that's the reason why I'm doing it. I feel that there's no intimidation at all of becoming a muralist. But it's more just a love and keep learning more and more. There's so much to learn, there's so much to do, you know, on a day-to-day basis. And it's just all about improving and evolving as an artist.
So I actually was really fortunate. The first people I ever painted with were graffiti writers, and they were all men. So I was sort of brought up amongst a very heavily male-dominated community, which I was very fortunate, respected me and pushed me along. So I've heard the opposite from other people. I guess I just didn't feel that intimidated because they all were friends of mine. I never thought that I had a voice on the wall the same way that I feel that I do now working with women. And like I said, it wasn't until I started painting with a woman graffiti writer that she asked me to express myself in the way that I do now. And I'm not sure if that was necessarily intimidation or just not understanding my place and importance, which could slightly be intimidation, and maybe sometimes you just need a lady friend to like push you on your way. So like I said, I've been really fortunate with the guys that I've grown up with that have encouraged me and still to this day are very big proponents for my work.
Men always have an advantage and more freedom, period. End of question. But yes, I mean specifically within this field, it's just the same. It's often monetary, it's trust, it's being given green lights more quickly and not second guessing the person, the woman, the female. I think that it's just a more easeful experience being alive when you're a man.
I think just like things in the world, there always will be a male advantage to begin with. If you show up to paint with a bunch of guys, in general, the girls usually get the crappier spot, or you know, you're usually just pushed to the side, one, because they've been doing it longer, and you know, just probably a mental society thing. Other than that, I actually feel like women have an advantage because women plan and they think things through, and they tend to sort of support each other in a way that maybe the male community doesn't. First time I showed up to paint a wall with women, there were like snacks and you know, everyone had planned, brought the right ladders. It was just really not stressful. So in many ways, I feel like women have an advantage, just their nature of the way they approach a project. I also art direct a music festival and organize a lot of muralists. So I make a very big step in making sure that we have at least 50, if not more percentage of female artists, because I just think there's so many amazing ones out there that need a voice.
I think everyone's equal. You know, it's you're an artist, you're an artist. It doesn't really matter if you're male or female, as long as, you know, you're doing something you love. And I think if you do something you love, you'll always somehow achieve your goals. You know, it's always very self-fulfilling in the end. But definitely I have been harassed and everything like that, painting murals on the street. I don't think men get that on the street when they're painting big, massive scales on the street. I don't think they get sexually harassed at all. You know, whereas as a female, you know, you have guys coming over, kind of commenting or whispering stuff to like, their other male friends or something, and you're kind of like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I'm on a fucking ladder with my paintbrush, and are you sitting there checking out my fucking abs when I don't have one? Like, it's just kind of, yeah, I mean, I would definitely say it is a little harder as a female. You know, to be a street artist out there, for sure.
The proposal or proposed budget for a project that is oftentimes maybe not openly accepted, and that there's maybe more skepticism about my capacity to complete the project, or it's ingrained. It's not even based on my resume. I've worked with $50,000 and upwards, so there's no evidence to suggest that I couldn't do it, and yet somehow there is always a little bit of tension or pushback on the monetary value of my work.
I mean, I think as a woman, everyone faces harassment. Honestly, the biggest thing that's happened to me recently, and it was one of my most recent projects, was having to do with heavy equipment and lifts. And I was working with this company and their lifts kept breaking and they didn't have emergency switches to come down. So I kept getting stuck in the air, like 40, 60 feet in the air. And on the last day of the project, we kept having to call the maintenance people to come bring us down because otherwise we'd have to get another lift to come get me. And so this male operator came and he did some of the scariest things I've ever have happened to me. I mean, I was flinging across the lift and he didn't want to stop because I think he thought I didn't know what I was doing. But I was able to stop him and I ended up scaling the lift and jumping off of it. So that has been, I think sometimes it's a little more on the operational side, maybe not getting the respect that I also know how to run this heavy equipment just as well as anybody else, because as a woman, I've actually read the manual. You know, and the respect-wise, it's a little bit more on like a construction site and some things where you show up and people are like, oh, this little girl's not going to be able to drive this big piece of equipment. So that's been a little bit of a hurdle. But harassment-wise, I don't know. I kind of dress like a little boy, so people don't usually bug me. If anything, they think I'm a guy or something.
Like, you know, I was painting outdoor pieces in the ocean before, and, you know, it was a huge project for myself. And being up as a female on the walls by yourself and having some weirdo guys come up and, you know, say some weird things, you know, and then it's really hard to kind of gain the respect and take you seriously as a female street artist. You're like, no, I'm not here for you to check out my ads when I'm on the fucking mat or whatever. It's more like, hey, you know, I'm here to do this piece for the city and for, you know, for everyone out there, for the community. I would definitely say that there are some men out there who would see you as a sexual object, which is disgusting to me, which I'm very against. Yeah, but other than that, I mean, it's been great. But yes, you do have some men out there who look at you and they're like, this girl's kind of crazy going out there, like, this should be a man thing. I'm like, fuck you. You know, girls can do just as good as you. Fuck you. Give me my shorts, asshole. Yeah.
The mural making process is extremely physical. I embrace that challenge, and it's something that I love about the craft. But I will say that you know, you're on your feet out in the sun, working from sun up to sundown. You're climbing scaffolding, you're using heavy equipment. Usually I'm like super muscular, ultra sunburn, and really exhausted by the end of every project. So that's one challenge, but it's a challenge that I feel comfortable with and that I embrace. Clients and patrons and administration, and typically those things go pretty smoothly, but of course there are ways in which I think as a female muralist you run into some walls and push back in terms of specifically the proposal process and negotiating pay.
So I definitely do know that a lot of times I get invited to things to fill the female quota, which sometimes is irritating, where you're like, okay, they're like, yeah, we just really need some female street artists, and you're like, okay, well, not that I'm talented in any way, it's just that, you know, I'm a woman. But I'm usually really proud to say that I'm a female muralist street artist, because I've grown up that way and I really just want to support other women in being strong and feeling good about it.
Well, if someone ever called me, you know, like the female artist, I'll be like, thank you for noticing. I'm like, fuck yeah, bitch, best recognize I'm a female on the street, okay? You know, so I'm actually very proud to be a female artist, because it's so, there's only a small amount of us out there. You know, majority of it is all male. And I don't know if I can say that, you know, maybe male artists are better than us female artists, but I've seen some amazing works by male artists where I thought it was a female, only to know that I'm like, oh my god, it was done by a dude, you know, like, you know, so I'm very shocked in that sense. But I mean, I think both. It doesn't matter what gender you are, as long as you do amazing work, and it's just all about what you feel, what you love.
As a woman and a feminist and an artist, I feel pretty comfortable being labeled a female artist or a female muralist. And I feel that way because I think that until the playing field is more equal, until there are as many women artists represented in history books, in museums, in the gallery world, until that that playing field is equal. I want to stand out as someone who is fighting those battles and someone who is being represented in a world of imbalance. So yeah, I welcome that.
Does my artwork have a feminist message? At times, yes, but I think it can relate to male or female. Like I did a street art piece in Chicago of a girl wearing, a bra and panties and boots and everything, but it says blinded by love. But that can relate to anyone, any gender out there, right? It can be blinded by love. And all my pieces are actually very personal, so unless it's a commission piece was like, was this one for a certain girl or a certain way or whatever. Other than that, it's all very personal, and yeah, I wouldn't say that there's a lot of, women empowerment in my pieces, but into how I feel at the moment and personal things that I'm going through my internal life. Yeah.
Definitely. I'm concerned most with making space for female stories, presenting figures in communion or in isolation to speak about how women survive and relate in a world where they didn't have any control over the rules. And honestly, in my mural practice, I mostly do client-based work, and I haven't had the opportunity yet to truly do a piece that would be entirely of my design. My canvases that I hang in galleries look really different than the murals that I've done so far in my portfolio. So I'm still waiting for that day. I feel like maybe it's coming this summer, but I don't know. But yeah, the mural that I most recently completed in Oakland featured, I think, 12 different female contributors to the history of Oakland. So we had Gertrude Stein and Angela Davis and Fabiana Rodriguez, Kamala Harris, and a bunch of other really gorgeous contributing artists, politicians, and civic leaders. And so I am extremely concerned with promoting the stories of women.
Yeah, I think with my art in general, I usually try and capture like a strong, usually seductive but mysterious woman that you just can't quite put your finger on it, what's hidden behind there. And I hope that it's alluring, but also as a message to all women that they have this beauty and power behind them that nobody even knows about.
I currently have 7 proposals out, so I'm waiting to get the signature and the deposit, and that's always when you know the project is actually going to happen. And until that moment, it's all just speculation and dreaming.
Well, I have 2 new big projects coming up that I have to keep it on the hush-hush. In San Francisco, in my own hometown, and one's going to be in Marina, and one's going to be in downtown, so I'm really excited what's coming this year.
Next project, well, I'm waiting, supposedly getting an answer tomorrow, if I'm going to paint this massive mural in the Cayman Islands. So as I mentioned, I art direct for this music festival called Kaboo. And as part of that, we have a festival in San Diego, one in Cayman Islands and one in Texas. And so as part of the project, I'm doing a series of permanent murals on island in Cayman Islands, and I took over the artist Jet Martinez in February and assisted him. Then hopefully I'm painting one next month there, and then I'm taking Ian Ross in the summer, and then 2 other female artists, Lauren Y.S. and Elle, over in December to paint. So that's really exciting. I'm gonna paint something here locally as soon as I fit it in. There's always, I'm very fortunate. I have a lot of really interesting projects that come up.